that yesterday, and I don't know if he's going through a sleep regression or what, but he's been waking up. So I want to get into this topic with you tonight. If you catch the replay, just watch it as if you were here live. Comment, ask any questions if need be. Most of you here already know me, but I'll just introduce myself for the people that catch this replay. My name is Naila Abdullah. Welcome. I'm a toxic relationship coach. My background is in mental health therapy, and I work with women helping them to heal and to rebuild themselves after a toxic or narcissistic relationship. I pivoted into that because of my own personal experiences with that, and also being able to coach other women through that. So that is what I do. So if that's something that you are currently dealing with, if you're still in the relationship and trying to get out, or if you're already out of the relationship but you're struggling with navigating the aftermath, is what I call it, because there's a lot of pain in those types of relationships. But once you get out, there's a whole nother leap of things that you need to deal with and get through. So that is what I do here. So tonight the topic is, why is it so hard to let go? I have people messaging me like, I know what to do. You know, I'm watching your videos. I know this is not right, but it's still hard for me to let go. So there can be several different reasons. I'm going to present 3 to you tonight. And for those of you who know me, I'm not just here to just tell you things, but I'm also here to help you find solutions. So I'm not going to just tell you why it's hard, but I'm going to tell you what to do to overcome those challenges of why it's hard. Thank you, Keisha. Yes. Why is it hard to let go? I just love making sure I pronounce people's names. Me too. I'm the same way, Keisha. I like to pronounce people's names properly. All right. So the first reason, and when I'm going to list 3, and I want you to comment below if you're in a situation like this or you're watching the replay, let me know which ones you can relate to. And that can also give me a little bit more insight in which ones I can go deeper into for you in the future. So the first reason it may be hard for you to let go is that you fear that leaving might be a mistake, right? You have created this fantasy, this vision for the relationship, for your future, about what it's going to look like. And although you see all the red flags, you're miserable, maybe not all the time, because a lot of times in these relationships, you're not always miserable, but you're more miserable than happy, right? And you know it's not right. You know things are not right. You know it's best for you to get out. But you are afraid that if I make the move, it's going to be a mistake and I'm going to ruin things. I'm going to miss out on my opportunity to have the vision that I wanted. In my particular situation, I grew up in a 2-family household until my mom passed away. Now, my mom passed away when I was 10. But even after that, my father remarried, so I was always used to seeing a stable household. And that is something that I really did admire and wanted for myself. And I was in a 10-year toxic narcissistic relationship. And my fear, too, was that I didn't want to ruin this, right? Like, I want stability. I want to create that life, get married, have children, build a family together, build generational wealth together, travel together. Like, I had this whole image of what I wanted, right? And I was afraid that if I were to let this go, like, am I going to have to start over again? Right? And that's another reason people don't want to let go. I didn't even plan to say that, but there you go. You're afraid to start over and you're afraid you're going to miss out on your fantasy. But this is what I challenge you to challenge those that fear with. Okay? 2 things. 1, you have to realize and accept that fantasy that you've created is not realistic to expect with the wrong person. That fantasy is not going to come to pass with the wrong person. And even if it looks pretty on the outside, and that's something I've seen with women that I've worked with, on the outside to everyone else, everything looks great. The family looks great. Everyone's doing well, right? So maybe you did buy the house and you got married and you got the kids and you got the cars and you have all of that, right? Everything looks good. But on the inside, you still didn't get the fantasy that you wanted. You may have the image, but it's not real. It's not real. Okay, so realize that you cannot create that fantasy with the wrong person, no matter how much you try to force it. Okay, the second solution to this, to overcome this fear, you need to have faith in God that he's not going to let the right thing pass you by as long as you're doing your part. Right? So I'm saying that because when we do make mistakes innocently, right? Not just carelessly and we know the right thing to do, but we're doing the wrong thing anyway. No. When we innocently make a mistake, God gives us grace. He gives us grace. So if he sees that you are genuinely trying to make the right decision and you make a mistake, he's going to give you grace and lead you to where you need to be. And that's where faith comes in. One of the biggest lessons I learned from my own personal experience was that I can't control everything. And I thought I could because I was being successful in other areas of my life. I figured, well, I could be successful in a relationship too. I'm just going to drive this car. I'm going to make things go the way it needs to go. I can't control everything, especially when it comes to another human being. You cannot control everything. So you also need to tap into your higher power, God, and ask him to guide you. And remember that he's not going to let that fantasy pass you by, that vision pass you by. But he's also not going to support you to try to force it with the wrong person. Because it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So the second reason it may be hard for you to let go, you're afraid of judgment. You're afraid of what other people may say. Let me give you a story. When I was in high school, again, my vision was to always have a stable relationship. So in high school, I had a high school boyfriend for 4 years. Now, this was not a narcissistic relationship. It wasn't great, but it wasn't narcissistic. And I remember I had a friend who had older sisters and they had friends, right? And they were maybe 4 or 5 years older than us. And I remember one day one of them said to me, your relationship is not going to last. Now, of course, as a teenage girl, I'm super defensive, right, over my relationship with my boyfriend. I'm like, what? Yes, it is. And I remember, and that stuck with me, right? It stuck with me. Didn't realize it stuck with me. But when it came down to the end of that high school relationship, it is a long time ago. My 20-year reunion is coming up this year. Can't believe it. Towards the end of that relationship, I remember being hesitant to let go because I'm like, dang, she was right. I don't want her to be right. Right? And that's just one example, right? And that's high school. But even as we become full-blown adults, we still sometimes fear about what other people are going to think. Whether they supported us and they were rooting for us and we don't want to disappoint them and say, oh, now your whole life is turned upside down or the relationship is ruined or now you got to start over or whatever the reason is, right? Or maybe they didn't support the relationship, but you're too embarrassed to admit that they were right, that maybe they saw something that you didn't see and they were trying to get you out of the relationship or talk to you and you were resistant and now you feel ashamed. Now, let me say this, that is all normal. Ask God to guide us. Exactly, Keisha. That is all normal to feel ashamed, to feel embarrassed. We're human. But we have to put on our big girl underwear, right? And bring that pride down, okay? And we need to get our priorities in order. We need to prioritize our well-being over our image. Okay, something I see often, especially people who live in small communities, they're so concerned about what other people are going to think, how other people are going to view them. But in the meantime, here you are exposing yourself to toxicity, right? Wasting your time. Your time is precious. Your time is precious. My husband and I was doing some research. We randomly do research online sometimes and we're talking about something and we were trying to calculate because we saw some article about a dragon found. I don't think it was a dragon. I think it was a dinosaur with a long neck. But either way, the article was talking about some fossils that were found that was 240 million years old. And we were like, that doesn't sound correct. So anyway, we started doing research about AD years and BC years. And long story short, we came to the realization of how our 80-year life, right, approximately they estimate human years to 80 years, it's a drop in the bucket, okay? So I say that to say the longer you stay in these situations, stay attached to these situations, these toxic, narcissistic types of people, you are wasting precious time. God did not put you here to be struggling with foolishness. Yes, I said foolishness. I have a Caribbean background. That's one of my favorite words, foolishness. Okay? So, prioritize your well-being, which includes your mental health, your psychological health, your financial health, because yes, finances are also sometimes impacted by these types of relationships. Prioritize your children. If there's children involved, your children's well-being, your children's development, prioritize that over your image. And when you start thinking like that, you're going to be able to, you may still feel a little embarrassed. Again, we're human, but you will be able to say, you know what? I may feel embarrassed, but I'm still going to make the move. I'm still going to make the decision. I'm still going to set the boundaries. Uh-oh, I have no sound. Oh, thank you so much, Missy. I forgot to press the button. All right. Can't hear you. Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry, YouTube said they can't hear me. Can you hear me now? I will probably have to put this. Okay, good. Oh, that's terrible. But thank you for telling me. Much appreciated. I'll have to download this video over to YouTube because it missed too much. All right, so that is the second reason we talked about, being afraid of judgment, and we talked about prioritizing your well-being over your image. The third and final reason that it may be hard for you to let go. You may feel like you don't have a strong enough support system and you're afraid of being alone. Now, this is something I can't say I personally experienced, but I know that this is a big problem for a lot of people. In some of these cases, these toxic and narcissistic relationships, people are isolated from their family, from their friends. And if they're not fully isolated, the relationships have been weakened. And they fear that, okay, if I let this romantic relationship go, I'm not going to have anyone. Okay. So that is, again, normal concern. But here's the solution. Here's the shift that I encourage you to make, right? To combat that is that, one, you have to understand you cannot be blessed with good people when you're occupied with the wrong people. Okay. And now this is not something I just read in an article that sounds fancy. This is something that I have experienced personally, and I have seen other people experience. You can't mix different crowds because you also have to change your mentality to be in a different type of crowd. Right? You have to become a bit of a different person. You have to evolve a bit. If you are in the wrong crowd, your mindset is tainted, right? So you have to be willing sometimes to go through that transition in order to attract the right people into your life. Okay? That is very important. You need to be willing to go through the transition of a season of being alone. A season of being alone and having faith. That goes back to the first part we spoke about, having faith that you will get the right people into your life. But you have to be willing sometimes to be alone. But that's temporary. I think that's a comforting thing to remember, is that it is temporary. Being alone, that lonely season, and just because you're alone don't mean you're lonely, but if that's something that you struggle with, because we're all different, just realize that it's a temporary season if you handle it in the correct way. The other thing, and I think I said this last night, is that we live in the best time ever. I'm talking to you guys. I've spoken to people here on social media in Cyprus, right? Different parts of Europe, okay? All over the US, North America. I don't think I remember anyone from South America, but we live in the best times where we can choose, it's a choice, to connect with different people. I was a part of a coaching group for the past 2 years. It just ended the end of last year. And I met some of the most phenomenal women. But I chose, and I prayed about it as well. I said, I want to meet a group of women that are spiritual, and I want to meet a group of women that are ambitious. And I joined 2 groups that have that. So we have to make the choice. We cannot get complacent in what's familiar to us, because sometimes what's familiar to us is what's comfortable, even though it may not be healthy for you. Some of you are having friends and family members who are also not healthy. That toxic or narcissistic romantic relationship that you're complaining about is just one of them. Sometimes you have to do a spring cleaning of your relationships. You need to take inventory, and it doesn't mean that people are bad. That's another mistake. We say, oh, well, they're not bad, they're good. It's not about bad or good. It's about, are they contributing to who you are trying to become? Are they healthy for you? Right? So take inventory of your circle. And don't be afraid to be alone for a certain amount of time. Clean house. Sometimes you have to clean house. And I'm not here to encourage you to cut everybody out your life, but I am here to encourage you that healing from a toxic and narcissistic relationship also spills over, that healing journey also spills over into your other relationships. When I got out of my toxic and narcissistic relationship, 10-year relationship, I had family that jumped to help me. Not all of them, some of them. And there were a couple of them that were just as toxic as the romantic relationship that I was running from. And that was a whole nother trauma that I had to go through and deal with, right? But I believe God set it up just that way because I needed to start shifting the way that I see people, the way that I deal with people. And it was time for me to have a spring cleaning, not just in my love life, but also in my family life, my family relationships. Miss You said, made it through the winter off grid by myself after divorcing alcoholic husband. We watch rabbits 4 hours a day. Well, that sounds nice to watch. I grew, he did it 9 years, isolated and rocky. Sometimes you have to isolate. Yeah. And people are afraid to do it. And, it's different for everyone. Sometimes people are more prone to depression and, so they have to be careful. Like, we're all different. But my point is you need to be willing to be alone sometimes. And then rebuild your support system. It's nothing like building your own family. Now, some of you may be blessed with great brothers and sisters and parents and uncles and aunts. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm not either. I do have some good ones, but I also have some ones that I had to distance myself from. But the best thing I've done, and I also give gratitude to God, is that He has put good people in my life. And I have had the wisdom to know that I can build my own circle. All right? It's not the people that you're born to. I can build it. I can surround myself with healthy people, like-minded people, or people who have a mindset that I'm trying to grow to, and create that support system. So it doesn't have to be that awful if you are willing to take control. Spring cleaning. Yes, Miggy. Thanks, Keisha. So if you can relate to any of these 3 reasons, we spoke about fear of leaving because you're afraid that you're going to make a mistake. We spoke about judgment, fear of other people judging you, and we spoke about the fear of being alone. Let me know, even if you watch the replay, let me know in the comments below which one you relate to. I'll tell you right now, I can relate to 2 out of the 3, 1 and 2. And if you want me to go deeper into it, let me know as well. Does anyone have any questions before we go? And of course, if you watch the replay, you can put your comments, your questions in the comments below. And I know I always invite you to also email me if you feel uncomfortable asking the questions, on public social media. All right. So before you go, I also want you to know, I said this I've been going live for the past 3, this is the 3rd day, and I've shared that I have a new program called the Relationship Detox, and this is the way that I am now working with clients. So if you want more details about that, you can click the link in the description box, you can DM me, you can comment below Detox, and I'll send you some information on that. But if you are in a space where you are currently in a toxic and narcissistic relationship, or you want to get out, or you are already out but you're struggling to navigate the aftermath of it, this is what I do. This does not have to be your story next year. You do not need to waste any further time. All right. So go ahead and comment Detox below, or DM me, and I'll be more than glad to go more into details about that for you. Okay, Missy. All right. Can you